Literally, when we were done praising the Chrono Boon, everyone started getting ZG buff in their book. People were spamming ZG buff, servers were crashing. I laughed so hard when Zirene sent me this.
Is it the Jalen one?
Yeah, the Jalen. He's just running through EPL, just spam with the Zelda thing going off over and over again.
That is by far my favorite from it. He's like, I keep hearing the noise.
All right, welcome guys to Prepared episode 9. So this week we got a whole bunch of TBC breakdown topics to discuss. So I added some last minute things to the list here. So we got beta key giveaways, just a discussion on that, just a really quick discussion on that, because that's been a topic that's been hot in at least in my Twitch chat. Then we're going to be talking about ZG buff shenanigans with the Chrono Boon. That was a fun time. The Tauren hitbox changes, which I think that I haven't seen anyone really talk about it. It's almost like it's flown under the radar, this whole Tauren hitbox normalization thing. Blacksmith weapons stacking, some stuff got changed today as well. Kara raid testing round 2, new item sets. We're going to be talking about the Deluxe Cash Shop items for TBC, everyone's favorite topic, Cash Shop. We got Leatherworking drum changes, thank the Lord. We got some side topics on the Blizzard CEO. He took a pay cut, I believe, which was interesting. And then I have a more general topic on the list as well. So we have TBC PvP stream toxicity and streaming in general for TBC. I thought that was an interesting one because I've been sitting in on a lot of podcasts and streamers and things for TBC. And man, the atmosphere on some PvP streams is it gets a little bit sketchy at times.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. And then we'll finish up with speedrun talk as we always do. So Noobs did drop a crazy speedrun out of nowhere. Kind of took a lot of people by surprise, but yeah, they set a new Naxx world record. So yeah, those are topics for today. Zirene, how are you doing as well?
I'm doing all right, man. You know, yesterday was just a lot of busy work for my life to get it all out of the way, and now, you know, I'm glad you're able to reschedule and then also push this, because I asked Snow yesterday. I was like, can we do this like 2 hours earlier? Because my guild wants to do Karazhan like right as it opens, which is right when we want to start the podcast. And I was like, you know, I kind of don't want to be multi-boxing the podcast and Kara. It's not that I would tell them to delay. I would literally just be doing it while we did the podcast. No, it's just one of those things where like I definitely want to go into Karazhan again and like, you know, do it multiple times this time. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny when we moved the podcast. I literally went on stream. I was like, are they going to release Karazhan right when we do the podcast then? Because they said they were delaying it. And yeah, sure enough, literally at the same hour that we rescheduled is when they decided that they would release Karazhan again. Yeah,
it was unfortunate.
Yeah, well, I mean, while we're on the topic, we must as well talk about that. The Karazhan raid testing round 2, that got cancelled out of nowhere. I don't know if you have any news on it. I have no idea why they cancelled it. I just assumed they found a crazy bug or something.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is, because they have shown already that they can change things on the fly, whether it's Magtheridon's HP. I literally saw, you saw the whole Storm Herald thing, right? Yeah. I literally saw them take away Venruki's Storm Herald and give him a Deep Thunder in the middle of an arena match. Which was so funny because he was against 2 other warriors who obviously everyone had their weapon unequipped in the arena. So everybody's just like stopping and going into their bags to find their Deep Thunder or whatever the hell happened. So they can change things on the fly pretty readily. So I was surprised when they canceled this, which signals to me it was something pretty big or that they just didn't know how to solve, right? Yeah. It wasn't just a numbers thing. It must have been something where everything kind of came crashing down, but it wasn't enough to like take the servers down, and they kept the PvP going. So they were definitely working on Karazhan in the background, and I have no idea what it is because it had to have been something like game breaking or not easy to fix.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I have enjoyed that they've left the servers up because a lot of people on the PvP server at least have been using it to do heroics and test heroics and things like that because of the faction, which is really, really nice. It's been fun to just play around in some heroics here and there, get a feel of how those things feel.
Yeah, my the rep paladin in my guild, Octobers, he was the guy who had like world first hand of rag. He because he's a rep paladin, that means that classic really like he just stands there and swings. He has no buttons he presses. So he's actually played so much TBC beta that he crafted the Lionheart sword, and then did enough heroics and got the primal nethers to upgrade it. So he has the Lionheart champion, the second version of it, and he has Bloodlust brooch already. So and he's about to have enough badges for something else too. So he basically just does heroics all day and doesn't even play classic anymore. He plays a character that's going to be deleted in a few days. So he's he's all in on the Rep Pally dream, but yeah, it's been interesting on that server for sure. I think the thing that, like, I think I talked about this before with like player trust and stuff, where you tax it. I feel like Blizzard, they've thrown a lot of things at us last minute, right? And I think it's because they're really trying to not overpromise and underdeliver, because that's what really fucks with people, is when they're like, "Hey guys, TBC comes out this day," and then they delay it. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" But if you never tell them when TBC's coming, and then eventually you drop it like 2 weeks before, and it's already like completely ready to ship, and like nothing could possibly go wrong, then you can never disappoint, right? So here it's like they went Karazhan testing in 2 days or some shit, right? They were like, "Oh, it's coming in 2 days." And then it was like, "Oh, we have to delay it." I'm pretty sure they really hated that they had to do that, because I'm almost positive that they are keeping their dates really like close to their chest in terms of what they're telling us, because they really don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That is actually a big thing that they seem to not want to do. And they ended up doing it here, which means it must have been massive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing in marketing. One of my old marketing mentors used to always tell me, never. It's much better to under promise and then over deliver than it is to do the reverse and then and get people disappointed about things.
Mm-hmm. It's expectation management is what it's called, where it's like you don't want to you want to manage expectations like at all points, and you don't want to like you said, over promise under deliver, because then you just seem like you're chest thumpy or you're boasting, and you can't actually give them what they say they
which is actually something as a streamer I got to work on sometimes, because I'm sure you've experienced this as well, where as a streamer there's always 10,000 projects you want to do, and then you get excited, you talk about them on stream, and then like you get too busy to actually do all the projects, and then it's kind of like, someone told me one time, if you want to do projects as a streamer, just do them. Don't talk about them, because like God knows when sometimes you just run out of time and you won't get to do these projects.
What's actually funny is there's a psychological phenomenon of if you have a goal, never tell anyone about it unless they are somebody who doesn't congratulate you for that goal. Like, say like, "Oh, I'm gonna be working out like in the next week or something, or I'm working out again." Don't tell people, because if they give you the satisfaction of like saying, "Oh, good job," you're actually less likely to continue doing it, because you already reaped the rewards of it. So if people go like, "That's a really good idea, that's awesome," like you actually feel good, and you're less likely to actually follow through, because you've already gotten a dose of like, the feel good from that. So it's actually really interesting. So if you have any like goals, don't tell people about them unless they're people who can really hold you accountable. And you're like, "Oh, I've lost like 5 pounds. I'm like going towards, I'm trying to get my 20." And they go like, "Oh my God, that's awesome. Keep going," kind of thing, right? It's like, that sounds really bad. Don't call your friend fat or anything like that. But it's like, "Oh, that's really good. That's really awesome. Keep going, man." Like that type of thing. If they're encouraging you instead of actually giving you the reward, super interesting.
Yeah. But yes, to go back to the Karazhan talk. Did you check out all the item sets? I know I asked you really quickly on stream the other day when you popped in. Did you how'd looking at the item sets go? Because they didn't add new item sets for some classes and things.
Yeah. So as a warrior, I was tanking Karazhan with like 16k HP buffed, and now I'm probably gonna have 18k. Because and I think I'm almost defense capped. I think I'm like really close to defense capped in all blue gear. The gear set that they gave tank warriors now, I was able to fiddle with a little bit and get it to be like pretty much optimal for like mitigation. So I'm gonna be like a fucking brick wall. I'm not using a leather belt anymore. Thank God. They gave you like some leather belt that had like random ass stats on it. But now I'm at the point where I'm just like, am I getting enough hit in here? Like, am I going to be able to hit these things? I don't know. So I think the changes they did to some item sets were really, really good. I think paladins can heal now. I think resto shamans are still in an interesting spot. But most DPS specs have at least a decent set. And also, like to the warrior thing, I had a warrior that went through Karazhan, got gear from Karazhan, and when I saw the new sets they had for tank warriors, I remade my warrior, and that one was actually infinitely better than any of the Karazhan gear I had picked up for like random pieces. It actually compensated so much more to just make a new one, which is a little disheartening if you have a character. But also the funny thing is I looked at my character from Karazhan before, and I had a weapon. I only had one weapon when I was dual wielding, and I was like, what the hell? So I logged in, and then I noticed that because I had Decapitator and Fool's Bane, so I had the axe from the Prince, and then I had the mace from Ilhoof, and they made them both main hand only, so it actually unequipped one of them, so I wasn't able to dual wield them anymore, and I was like, oh shit. So they didn't just change blacksmithing maces; they changed other weapons too. So that was a really interesting surprise. I was kind of like, oh shit, like, guess I'm definitely not playing this character even as Fury now. So, but yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of good choices, and they felt like they had a lot more time, and they added kind of slowly but surely to them. Right? They gave like a little bit more and more to each class, and they weren't just focusing on PvP, which was the nice thing, because PvP was like the big thing that was going on.
Yeah. I did check on the rogue side of things as well. Nothing new for rogues, but rogues never really had any issues.
Yeah, with like
I would say it was
rogues
fine.
were fine, bro. Yeah. Rogues are like it's interesting because throughout like the first two, I want to say like the first two games, you can definitely, you definitely feel like rogue and mage are some of the most fleshed out classes in the game. Not just from like a damage dealing perspective, but from like they don't change too drastically, and they only get tools to make them better and more versatile, especially in PvP. Like to me, it feels like, rogue and mage are some of the main characters of WoW. If you're PvPing, like those classes, like if you don't play a rogue or mage and you have beta access, I highly recommend you go play a rogue or mage like for the first time. You'll go play a mage and you'll be like, Jesus Christ, is this what everybody's been doing to me? Like, especially if you're like a rogue or warrior player, you go play a mage, you're just like, it feels like a little bad, but you're like, I'm on this side of the matchup now. you Nova someone and watch them sit there while you cast a full frostbolt, and it feels dirty. It just feels downright dirty. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of.
It's funny. I saw sometimes when I'm just before I'm going to sleep, I hop on the Twitter, as you do. The best thing to go to sleep to is to hop on Twitter, because that definitely shuts your brain down and doesn't get you irrationally angry or anything like that. So I hop on Twitter, and I saw you were having like you and a few other guys were all commentating on how some people were really, really, really enjoying PvP, just queuing for skirmishes over and over, and some people weren't. And I think you and a few other people made the observation that, yeah, the people that are really enjoying the PvP seem to be a lot of rogues, mage players. Basically, the classes that are OP or really, really good in PvP, they're just having the time of their life just queuing over and over for PvP. Whereas you don't see as many guys like the paladin healers and things. You don't see many of them chain queuing for PvP right now.
Hey, I'm playing a holy pally and a ret pally, but the problem is I guess there's like, I want to say it's like a 3-layered problem. The first one is right now you are playing against a very skewed audience. You're playing against players who are typically a little bit better than the average player, so you can't play anything that's a little suboptimal, because you're playing against actually good people most of the time. I've played against Snuts, Venruki, right? You're playing against people that you may not play against when you're actually playing. Second thing is everybody is the most optimal race for their class right now, because they've gotten to pick it right off the bat. And here's the thing too, is most people, I'm just gonna say this, most people will be playing something different in Arena unless they are purely focused on Arena, and then you probably won't be in that same bracket as them, or that same ELO, right, or Arena rating, because they'll probably be higher. Because if you think about it, on average, the best race in PvP for that class is not the best race in PvE for that class, right? Like, if you're thinking like, oh, shaman, it's like, oh, Draenei is the best PvE shaman, maybe orc as well, right? But then Tauren is the best PvP shaman because they get war stomp, they can chain lightning and things like that. Orc is up there as well. But then it's like blood elves. Oh, PvP for paladin. It's like, well, actually, PvE for paladin, you want to be like either a Draenei for the hit for your group or the extra heal, which is a hot, or you want to be a human if you're tanking type thing, or if you're ret, it's the expertise, and they have blood. And it's very, very difficult because like even undead rogues, right? The undead rogues you see in arena, if you ever see an undead rogue, you're like, damn, that guy is the best race for this class in PvP. But then you get to go like, I got 5 expertise though. Or you go like, oh, but I have Blood Fury, right? So you could take some comfort in the fact that your PvE is probably better. But right now, people literally only get to pick for PvP specifically. So you're playing against classes and races that are the best combination. Like how many fucking gnome warriors are you going to see? Versus you're probably going to see some human warriors here or there. You're going to see a lot more orc warriors, right? And that's the thing that I think skews it a lot more. Is that people get to pick right now and literally just get to boost it. Like I'm probably not going to have like the class and race that I have right now on like a lot of my characters. I'm just doing it because it's optimal. And then the final thing is, well, the gear sets, right? Like people are running around with no resilience right now. What's good against no resilience? It's like, oh, probably a rogue and probably a mage that has shatter and can like absolutely shit on people. It's the same thing with warlocks too. And because rogues and mages already have so much avoidance or like ways to get away in their kit, getting hit is not that much of a problem. It's kind of like when Storm Herald came out. I was like, when I actually opened Venruki's stream because somebody had pinged me that Storm Herald was actually on the servers. I was like, this is not going to go well, is it? And then he literally like 2-shot everybody. And I wish that were an exaggeration, but he was literally 2-shotting everybody because people have like 150 resilience against a weapon that like, I was like, what? This isn't even fair. Like for context, warriors right now, warriors and ret paladins, the best weapon you have access to is like the lower city trident, which its top end is 404, I think. And then Deep Thunder, not even Storm Herald, Deep Thunder is 514. It's already 100 higher top end. Then you throw Storm Herald in there, which has a stun plus mace. It was actually just disgusting damage. He was just destroying people. It made Warrior look like the most broken class in the entire game. It was, yeah. But Storm Herald won't be available in Phase 1, even though it was originally back in TBC, because you could do Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep. So there's a little more balance there. So Warriors won't be as good in Season 1. But yeah, it's a compounding factor of like rogues and mages look really good right now. But as time goes on, you'll see druids, hunters, and warlocks feel even better. But right now, queuing as a healer, pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Especially when you roll a double healer.
Queuing as a rogue right now, as an undead rogue, every match, man, you're playing this 30-second timer in your head. Okay, where do I hide? Because I know the other team has 5,000 rogues that are human, and they're definitely running straight at me with perception right now. And
yeah, they fixed that though. You can now play against the same faction.
Yeah, thank God, because it was definitely skewed for a while where every match, if people were getting really worried in the rogue community about human rogues, but they have to keep in mind that, guys, you're not going against human rogues every single round. It's just that in the beta, it feels that way because every rogue you are going against is a human rogue, especially if you're undead, because you were only facing a lance and everyone was human on the other side.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is if you were playing a alliance, if you were playing a horde rogue, you probably felt really bad because you're playing against perception every game if you played against a mirror match, right? And if you were an alliance warlock, you probably hated your life because you're playing against so many undeads. So if you're playing like an undead warlock or a horde warlock, you actually probably didn't feel that bad because you weren't playing against Will of the Forsaken on like 2 people every single game. You were going up against like humans and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, look at this human warlock. I can get out of his fear. He can't get out of mine. And so, yeah, that was kind of a big thing, is the racial skew, I guess, of the way people were picking their races and the fact that you couldn't play against the same faction.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talked about the weapons since we're on the topic of weapons. Did you see they updated the blacksmith weapons where, or not the blacksmith weapons, but people tested the haste proc on weapons seems to be stacking with haste potion now, which is
Okay.
interesting. So for people that don't know, oh wait, I'll pull it up on the screen. I do have it open. This has been tested, or is in the process of being tested right now. People are finding that yeah, the haste potion and the proc on haste weapons and such are now stacking, and before they weren't. So this kind of answers the question that a lot of people had before, where people were wondering, is this a bug that is not stacking, or is this on purpose that the haste proc isn't stacking with haste potions? Which kind of reopens up the a lot of people didn't want to go blacksmithing anymore because the blacksmith mace has a haste proc which wasn't stacking with haste potions, but now it seems like this might be a thing again. So we've gone back to the meta now where people might go blacksmithing again for the proc.
Yeah, and that's oh man, and it depends though as well. Like if eventually you can get the blacksmithing weapons, like two of them, right?
Yeah.
Because this is somebody using ED,
Yeah, this isn't
which is
Burn
the same
Demolisher,
proc,
yeah.
which I believe is the same proc. So eventually it depends on if they can actually, I guess, stack on that as well instead of just refresh, because then that'll dictate whether or not you dual wield them. Even then, I'm not sure. You probably will. You probably will because it's just such a good weapon. Like as a warrior, as a rogue, no. So, but that's good though. I mean, everybody likes haste stacking, especially rogues. Especially when glaives come out. So
Yeah,
you'll feel really good about that.
I was having a discussion about someone talking about swing timing, which, by the way, is also updated on the beta. Sword spec is no longer resetting your swing timers anymore on the beta. So it seems they fixed that because that was an ongoing bug for rogues where sword spec in TBC isn't supposed to be resetting your swings, at least not on the patch that we're playing on, and that has been updated. So it has been nice to see that they've been at least working on and addressing the bugs. It seems like they're slowly going through the long list of bugs that they need to fix. And while we're talking about it, have you seen the Tauren hitbox changes, Zirene?
I haven't seen them. No.
Yeah. So this kind of almost slept under the radar. I didn't know about it unless you were just really looking at the forums and other things, but it seems that Tauren hitbox has been normalized in PvP on the TBC beta PvP server. So this means that everyone has the same hitbox again. People aren't going to be doing the like this, the Sony digital clip that everyone's seen already, where he's hitting people through walls and things. For me, it's kind of like a whatever change. It never really bothered me in the first place. But I have seen some Taurens who have been kind of upset by it because there's a small niche community of people that apparently they picked Tauren for TBC. They wanted to be able to do this stuff. But yeah, it has been changed and nerfed rather, in that everyone is now.
Is it still larger than? Oh damn! You can't show those.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, God damn it, Sony! When are you gonna make the rest of us look bad? It's like when I tune into Zayu's stream sometimes, and he says stuff like, "Yeah, if I'm hungry and I want a burger and some fast food, I go make it myself." And like yeah, thanks Zayu. Yeah, that makes me feel way better about the way I live my life.
Oh man. But yeah, the changes, are they nerfing it or making it? Do they nerf it or just make it exactly the same as everybody else's? Because I imagine they just reduced it.
They made it the same as everyone else, it seems. So
really,
it's like normalized. They're calling it normalization. It needs more testing because I think this has slipped under the radar because I haven't seen anyone else even talk about this, but it seems like arena hitboxes are just normalized, so everyone kind of is on the same page. Which is interesting, yeah.
Because I do remember, like, here's the thing: is like the Sony digital clip. I do remember Taurens having larger hitboxes and being able to swing through pillars, especially things like Blade's Edge Arena. And in Nagrand, you could definitely do it when both people were moving, because that's how leeway works, right? Is if both people are moving, the range is extended even further. And especially if it's a Tauren that's moving, right? So if it's Tauren on Tauren action, yeah, it's going to be like, oh, your hitboxes collide because both your hitboxes are larger than normal and you can go through the pillars. So it's just kind of how like hitboxes work in general, and how leeway works. So it's I personally had no issue with it because I felt like if you're not playing Tauren into a Tauren, it's not gonna feel like that, right? That's a very like specific thing of Tauren versus
Yeah, I
Tauren.
feel like it got exaggerated a lot because a lot of people were seeing the clips of Taurens on Taurens and then assuming like, oh
Mhm.
no, this is how it's gonna be for everyone. But it's like a very specific interaction that only happens if you're a Tauren versus another Tauren and you're both moving
Mhm.
side to side at the same time and things like that. For the average use case, you didn't really see that happening. The only thing that was worrying was this second clip where you have you have the Tauren hitting people from underneath the bridge and such. That was a little bit sketchy. But
Mhm.
besides that, just the general hitboxes, it never really bothered me. But it seems it is bothering some people. I'm more worried that like I hope this isn't taking resources away from all the other bugs that they still need to fix. That's what actually worries me more than all this stuff is that I hope that they are working on the rest of the bugs that need to be fixed and not so much worrying about things that aren't technically a problem or aren't technically like a major bug or anything.
No, Bobka's talking about tornadoes, dude. Dude, I uh I had a really weird tornado experience. Who was I playing with? Oh god. I forgot who I was playing with, but like uh shit. I think it was Zexcellence. I think I ran into like Zexcellence or something like that. And we were playing together in a game randomly. And there was just this mage who a tornado like spawned on him and it yeeted him towards me. And then as I hit him, he like blinked away and then a different tornado spawned and it yeeted him like back towards me. It was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. Like the thing is the tornadoes, I remember them, they did damage, they pushed you out of the way, but I don't remember them being at like a 10. You know, it's like somebody took the tornado and they were like, turn it up. We like more nados. And I was like, wait, what the fuck is this? Because I remember them knocking me back. I don't remember them yeeting me across the arena. It was actually just disgusting how far they were throwing me. And throwing other people. So I was really, yeah, pre-nerf. I was like, is this pre-nerf tornadoes? Like, I didn't know if they ever had tornadoes this extreme. This is like horror movie. You know how people in like the 90s were like, let's make movies about like natural disasters like volcano and stuff like that. And then they were like, how about tornadoes, man? These are the tornadoes straight out of those movies where it's like storm chasers and stuff. They're so strong. I feel like they need to just be nerfed a little bit. You know, a lot of people hate them because it's an RNG element. I don't mind them because I remember them and it was like not a bad thing. But I definitely think they're they're a little bit too punishing right now, especially where they spawn randomly.
Yeah, someone once told me that any good game has an element of RNG, but a very controlled element of RNG where it doesn't get so RNG like that it just completely ruins the game. Kind of like I
Mm.
think the example they gave me was poker, where poker it's a skill based game, but it has that small element of RNG that kind of makes it interesting in aspects.
Small element of RNG in poker, huh? Small element. Yeah, it's RNG games where you need to like maximize your I guess probability of winning. Um, but yeah, poker has a lot of things outside of it, like bluffing and bet size and all of that helps you kind of tune your game. So yeah, I do agree to that because if something is purely skill based, a lot of people will drop it because either they're not good enough or it gets solved if they are good enough and they feel like they can just win every time type thing. Um, so yeah, there should be some RNG to some level, so it's not exactly the same every single time.
Yeah, it feels like the PvP has been popping up, so we must as well talk about all the PvP topics while we're talking about PvP.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if I mean you've probably seen if you've been popping on Venruki streams and things like this, but man, the some of the Twitch chat and such when you hop into a PvP stream right now, it feels like every chat wants their streamer to be the greatest PvP of all time, and if they if they beat someone, you're like, yeah, that guy sucks. How dare you lose in TBC beta PvP with unbalanced arenas versus my favorite streamer? And I'll be on two creators Twitch chats at the same time just looking at what's happening. Like I think I was watching Bobka versus Sony the other night when they were queuing war games together, and I'm in
Mhm.
Sony's chat, and they're just like they're just shit talking Bobcat and his private server players so much, and then on Bobcat's chat, they're doing the reverse. They're like, oh yeah, these guys coming in facing these private server players, and meanwhile, it's almost never the actual players talking all that stuff. It's always just Twitch chat, just being Twitch chat, and kind of going into the mindset of like my streamer has to be the best, and
And
um
I I think that was an interesting set of war games because I'm pretty sure that was the one where um it was Venruki was playing Druid, right? And they literally just kept getting smashed. And then Venruki was like, I'm gonna go tree, so I can't be sapped. And then he gets banished. And
oh,
then
you were
he's
there,
like,
yeah,
oh
that was literally the same
yeah,
thing I was watching. Yeah.
yeah. And then he's like, oh, I guess I can get banished. And then after that, it's like Bobka's team traded out one of their guys for a Shadow Priest, I think. Traded out their shaman for a Shadow
Yeah.
Priest. And then they were like, no, go back to the shaman. So they went back to the shaman, and then Venruki's team kind of won almost every single one from there. So it was like almost like a flip where they had kind of like figured out what to do in the matchup. That or Bobka's team was dropping the ball a lot more, but at first it seemed kind of unwinnable for them. So it's one of those things where like, God, I will say that is how like competitive gaming works, where you scrim a team where it's not really worth it for you to scrim, and you always help them more than you help yourselves. You're like the second time you beat them in a row, just stop, just be like, if we make these guys get better, they're just gonna beat us, kind of thing. Because at that point, if you're losing, you're thinking more and more about how to get better or what to do. Whereas if you're winning, you're kind of just like, let's just keep smashing these guys in the same way. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But yeah, I feel like that was an extreme where you had people who were, you had Sony from like the old TBC days, you had Venruki from there as well, who also plays Arena currently. And then you had people like Bodka, who are like classic players who also play on private servers. And so I think there's kind of three camps right now that are all like kind of, I think there's like a little chest thumpy like competition going on right now, where you have the three camps. The first one is the people who were good in TBC back then, like the old school players. People are like, those guys are going to come back, they're going to smash. Then there's the new retail kids like Pickaboo, right? Where it's like these guys are going to come in, they're going to smash. And then there's people who are on private servers who are like, we've been playing TBC for years, and people are like, they're going to come in and smash. So everybody's kind of like thinking that their like camp is going to be the strongest. And I actually have like no idea, but I can tell you straight up that the people who used to play TBC back then, we're fucking garbage. So you got 2200 rating back then, and you didn't know shit about the game, dude. Like I could tell you straight up, as somebody who was a rank 1, it was I didn't know shit. There's like things that you could like do that you like other people really didn't do. Like people know Judgment of Justice as a paladin on druids and stuff, but it's like really small things. But at the same time, it's just not. Those people have a lot of catching up to do. So I think it's more like the retail people versus like the private server people, and then people who like really like their retail player who played back then, kind of thing. So yeah, it's what is this? Somebody said the streamers in the different camps should start interacting so the toxicity doesn't get out of hand. Easier said than done. Some of the players, already have relationships with each other, and they're usually going to gravitate towards each other. So it's the people who like, it's like Zico, Venruki, Sony, these people who already have relationships with each other, Sea-Doo, how much are they going to go and like talk to private server people who haven't really like proven themselves to them, right? It's like this guy is like big name on private servers. Is like, well, I don't know who that is. So when you have only a finite amount of time and you can spend it with people like Sea-Doo or Venruki and Zico, if you're in that camp, it's like going across the aisle until they show you that they deserve that kind of thing isn't always worth your time. Does that make sense? It sounds like a little bit harsh, but it's kind of like it's a risk, and you don't know if it's going to be worth your time or if it's going to pay off. From like a really base perspective.
Yeah, I've noticed as well. It's been very obvious the guys who are more newer to stream, because I've seen a lot with all this PvP stuff, a lot of private server guys are kind of blowing up on their Twitches and things like that. They're suddenly
Mhm.
becoming 500, 600, 1K plus viewer streamers almost out of nowhere, almost overnight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can tell a lot of them aren't as used to that sort of level of interaction with your chat, or not used to that, because they don't realize that sometimes your chat is going to feed off you. So I think for an example of
Mhm.
that is I was in Mer's chat. He's a very good rogue, by the way. Very, very good rogue from private servers. And you could tell that he wasn't kind of used to that streamer communication yet, where he was constantly bringing up the points where he's like, oh, in private servers it worked like this, and so on, because there's a lot of bugs on the TBC beta, and the TBC beta doesn't perform the same way as private servers. So when he would bring that up, it would cause this loop to start where the chat would start making fun of him if he loses, because you're like, oh, you were just saying private server stuff and now you're losing. And then that would tilt him more, and then it would just be this endless loop of him mentioning again, and then the chat would bait him into doing that. And I could see it being very hard for guys like that who are new to streaming and they don't understand how to control it. Versus when I watch like someone like Snuts stream who's kind of more used to it. He's been around for so long. He just looks at
Mhm.
chat and he's like, "You guys are idiots. Shut up." Like he doesn't even address it. He just tells them to stop being idiots.
Yeah. Chat likes the abuse. Chat is like one single entity that likes the abuse. So that's what I learned is chat. You guys are usually idiots, and if you aren't an idiot, then you still need to shut up anyway. So, oh, and then you give me a D colon, and I'm like, oh, I don't mean it, chat, and that's the relationship. It's just it's a very abusive one, but you don't watch a Twitch stream to just watch most of the time, especially if you're typing, you want to interact to some degree. So that I think it's some people want to save face in front of their own Twitch chat, uh, and then other people want to play Ret Paladin and that and not and that's fun. So, but yeah, so when you're it's kind of like a chat kind of reflects what the streamer kind of allows and promotes, right? And you eventually kind of filter things out. And I think that's really important because if you're allowing certain things or you're even talking to certain comments that are like, dude, you suck. Like, what are you doing? And then you give that person your time of day, you're reinforcing the idea that negative comments get your attention. And that's not a good thing. So you should more so interact with the positive people, and it's your stream chat. Just advice for like all the people out there who stream. It's your stream chat. You control it, and you have way more control over it than you ever think possible. You could literally ban every single person in chat if you wanted to, and like put it on sub only when you have no subs. Sure, maybe like people won't watch as much or interact, but it's still your chat. You can control what you see, what goes in there, what doesn't go in there, and so I think it's really important that you kind of understand that. And also, when your community goes over to another community, what have you been allowing? Because that will start leaking into when you raid people and things like that. So, yeah, if you have a really like aggressive or abrasive community, you got to tell them like, "Hey guys, you know, we gotta shape up. People, I want to have some good relationships with other streamers. If you say anything bad, you just put a smiley afterwards." or say the exact opposite. Okay, chat, let's try it today. Okay, say this is my favorite podcast. Smile and like, and you do things like that. So yeah, just teaching your Twitch chat.
It's like that period. You probably know about this. There was this period in League of Legends where they went really hard on trying to stop in-game toxicity through chatting, and then everyone just
Mhm.
started going this sarcasm route where they were like, "Oh, you are really good at mid lane. You are amazing. That play did not lose us the game. Amazing work there, buddy."
Because context lost over the internet, right? And sarcasm does not translate very well via text. So people can be like, not sure if being an asshole or really encouraging. Oh, yeah, it's a big problem, and sarcasm I think gets you around a lot of things if it's just like a chat filter. But yeah, in terms of like TBC and people's chats and the attention they're getting, I definitely think that the private server people are gaining more and more traction because one, they're good players, and two, they run into other big streamers and get beaten by them, right? Or like, vice versa. So like Murr is somebody that I hadn't really heard of, and I think I got him on my team a few times, and I played against him a few times. And I was like, you can tell by like playing with the person, you're like, oh, this guy isn't a complete animal, right? Like, it's like that. That's my favorite thing is like right now on the beta when you play, there's nobody who like outgears anybody else like to an extreme, and you go like, this guy is just a god. He is just smashing people, except when Warriors had Storm Herald. But you can kind of tell because everybody has exactly the same gear, or they've changed their gear slightly. You can actually kind of tell who's not a complete ape just by playing with them like once or twice. Like, sure, one time somebody maybe messes up an opener or gets caught or something, or lags or whatever. But like playing with somebody 2 times, you get a really quick feel of like if this person is going to understand who to go on or understand that you're CCing without any communication, right?
Yeah.
So there are some really good players who take a lot of cues from people, especially without like a lot of add-ons right now. And then there's people who you're just like, this guy is just face rolling and he's just trying to have a good time kind of thing. It's not actually like
right here, guys. Right
game.
here. I can't, well, like for me, the big problem is that rogues need so many hotkeys and bindings and things to be set up to play the way you want to do it. And I haven't got around to setting up my add-ons the way I want to, so I just kind of put it off doing it, which means until like the other day I didn't even have pre-med bound. So I just be like face rolling into people in arena, and I feel bad for some of them. Sometimes I get tells after from people because some people take it super serious, like the TBC beta. Whereas for me, I've been just queuing. I was like, dude, I don't even have all my bindings set up. I'm just running at people, just having fun before I actually get serious later down the line.
Dude, what was it? I played with a rogue one time, and like we lost. And then I like played like a few games later. I was just some guy that I solo queued into. Ran into him. We lost, or like had him on my team. We lost. A few games later, had him on my team again. We lost, and he like completely botched the opener like both times or whatever. And then the third game, I actually I got into a game with him, and I AFK'd out because because like Rend was dropping. Or like Rend was about to drop, and I was like, fuck, it's probably gonna go out during this arena match. I'll just like AFK and wait a minute. And then I came back and I tabbed back into beta like 5 minutes later, because Rend doesn't always go out on cooldown. And I had a whisper that said, I lagged the last opener, you fucking douchebag. From him. And he's like, you don't need to be a dick about it. And I hadn't said a single thing to him. And I whispered back. I was like, oh, dude, I had to AFK. And he had me on ignore. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I got ignored on the beta. And I didn't say a single thing to this guy. Like, I didn't say a single thing to this guy throughout the 2.5 games we played together. I was like, holy shit. Oh, my God. Yeah, some people take it really seriously. And that's a thing that I'm excited for as well. Because right now, it's like nobody gets butthurt over any PvE things, like in speedrunning and things like that. It's a lot of like friendly banter and shit like that. Nobody actually gets like really butthurt, because you can always say like, oh man, it's the other 39 people in my raid that are holding me back. You can just deflect as much as you want. Here, it's like, it's only your friends and you that can take the blame on your 3s and 2s team. So either you blame your buddy and you fuck up your team, or you realize that you're shit and you need to get better. So a lot of people are going to get butthurt. A lot of people are going to get really butthurt in TBC. There's going to be a lot of complaining about like the way something plays out. Like, oh, both my vanishes get fucking like, I get autoed out of both my vanishes. I get RNG'd super hard by mace stun. There's going to be a lot of raging. There's also going to be people complaining about compositions and shit and classes being unbalanced. So it's going to be good old PvP, dude. It's going to be PvP the way it was back then.
Oh, man. I remember there used to be people who I remember way back in the day. I used to watch Hafu. Back when she was really high.
She's a druid, right?
Yeah. And she was actually playing the other day, which was a weird throwback to watch that and watch her play TBC again. And
does she actually? So random aside, I don't know if she actually has TBC beta access, or if she got it from somebody.
Yeah, she does. She is in the beta. The other day she was playing with Sony and crew.
Because I remember her. posting on Twitter that she didn't have beta access. So I don't know if that's her. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the thing is like I was kind of surprised that she didn't have beta access right away. God, the names I remember from back then are like I remember like the old Drake Dog stuff. I remember like Azale. I remember Hafu, Sony. I remember there was I remember Hoodrich. I remember oh god, there was a threes team of people that were in my old guild before I had server transferred. It was like Nadok, Rocks, and then there was like I think it was oh god. I want to say it was like a shaman, but I don't remember his name. And then there was Spo, because I used to play with Spo back on Dark Iron in Classic, and I had no idea. Like we had no idea who the other person was at all. like later on, I was like, oh yeah, that guy played Druid, like, and was one of those like early Grand Marshals in my on Dark Iron with some random ass server. So yeah, there's a lot of people who like when they come back, you're just like shit, like that's a blast from like the past. That is. Like
it felt super weird watching that. But yeah, to talk about the PvP aspect, it was I always remember that there was that one segment of a tournament, I think in WoW. I can't remember which tournament it was in Arena, but I remember that Hafu's team didn't want to queue, but she forced them to queue to get better for the tournament. And there's a lot of that stuff that happens in like high end arena because people are trying to match the comps up because you don't want to lose versus this comp. You don't want to always queue against this other comp. But that's something I've always admired about when I used to watch Hafu way back in the day is that she's someone that always wants to get better at doesn't care if you lose. She just wants to always get better. It is something that's always struck me about the people who are very good competitive gamers, that they have that mindset that I just want to get better. Like they don't care if they lose necessarily. They just want to improve their own skill.
Yeah, and that's a big thing where I think I've talked about this before. If you have something new or you know how to beat somebody, you don't show it until tournament time. And if you show it in scrims, they have time to practice against it, and then it's not as like lethal of a weapon come game day. And so I don't blame people, kind of like how Progress had hid their strategies. I don't blame people who hide their strategies up until final hour, right? Where they can show it. Because I almost guarantee you that the people who are beating Progress's time right now probably wouldn't be beating Progress's time unless they saw what Progress did. So they could have held that for as long as they wanted to. And it's just one of those things where I respect when people throw out their strategies. I don't think it's smart. I think it's stupid I think there's a difference between being a competitor and being a winner, right? I think a winner is somebody who holds their strategies and tries to fuck you up with them when it's game day. I think a competitor is somebody who will show you all their strategies all the time and go, beat me so I can get better, right? Beat me and think about how I can, I'm going to show you something that beats you. I want you to beat this, and then that'll allow me to grow as a player and beat you doing something that beats what I was doing, right? And that's kind of like the growth of the competitor versus being a winner. And I think those are actually different. Most people think they're the same thing. I actually think they're different. Being from like an esports background, I feel like there are people who are true competitors, and then there are people who are like winners, people who care about growth like Hafu versus people who care only about winning, right? So they're kind of different.
Yeah, but I've always been fascinated by the people that can grow. Like I always, people sometimes ask me like, oh, how'd you get into snowboarding and all of that? And like for me, it's always been like you can do like talent for me, at least when I look at like people who are talented at anything, or whether it's esports or such, it plays such a small role in actually getting good at something. A lot of people can get a lot better at stuff if they're just willing to lose, take losses on the chin and such. Like a really good example, since we've got Hafu as the topic. I used to watch her when she transitioned to Hearthstone, when the whole Hearthstone thing was popping off. I remember back then, because I used to watch Chaos for people who, when we're going way back now into the Twitch sphere. Chaos when he was still on the TSM and he was still like AD carry and things like that. He was going into Hearthstone as well, and he was one of the better players in there. And I remember watching him play versus Hafu at the time, and she was awful, like really, really bad. And she was brand new to the game, and she's just making the worst plays. Never played card games like that in her life, you could tell. But then she became one of the biggest Hearthstone streamers just by raw will of being willing to lose over and over and over again until she learned how things worked.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't like big shout out to Hafu. I actually like I've watched her play so many different games. I've watched her play like TFT. I watched her play WoW. I watched her play Hearthstone. Like it's not just like being a competitor and throwing your head against the wall because I could play a ton of games and just still be bad. I think that
Some
Hafu
would
has
say
a very
still bad.
yeah, right.
Arena partner for one.
Most would say. But when it comes to like Hafu, the way she thinks about games is very much so like, how do I control my RNG? Nothing was ever like up to luck, for example, right? It's like, how can I control the elements that I can control? And what can I do about that to get better instead of just attributing your loss to something external? She's very much so like, what can I do better? How did I misplay there? And like really reflects on that type of thing, right? So she does a lot of reflection instead of deflection, which I think is very important for improvement and actually improving at a game. So she has a very good mind for video games, which is, I would say being in like a Twitch sphere. You guys might be like, oh, it's very common, but I'll tell you straight up, it is not that common at all in terms of like the percentage of people who actually are good about thinking about video games. It's actually much rarer than you think it is. And if you're one of the people who actually is good at thinking about video games and how to approach them, then you actually have a more unique skill set than you realize because you're just surrounded by other people who had that skill set. It's like being a lawyer and being good at law, but you're literally at Harvard, right? It's like, yeah, it's the same thing. You're all like right there together. So it's like a collection of those people. Whereas I'm sure you could teach your friend a little bit who's like a complete normie, right? So it's a much smaller skill set than people realize, or I guess rarer skill set than people realize, and it's going to become more and more valuable over time. So being able to think about video games is very important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to jump off, since we've been talking about PvP for a while now, we should cover the rest of the news so that people don't start changing crowd, because people hated the speedrun talk. Now they're going to be like, why did you guys talk about PvP for 2 hours on the podcast?
Hey, there's going to be a tournament at some point, right? Aspen's throwing a tournament.
Oh, that's going to be fun, by the way. I'm excited for that one. That's going to be a good time.
Oh, yeah. I am ready for the boomer versus zoomer conversation. Like I was talking about, there's different camps of like who's good, the old school PvPers, the new school guys, the private server guys. There's going to be a boomer versus zoomer thing where it's going to be like, oh, Zico, man, he's his hands are getting old. And it's like, TBC is not a fast game, my friend. It's like, oh, Peekaboo's a great rogue. It's like, yeah, but, you don't need that type of APM in this game. You just need to set up your focus target. Like, that's the thing, is I actually think that retail is a lot more skill intensive than TBC, but TBC is a lot more prep, right? There's a lot more that goes into your focus target macros, to your hotkeying. Like as soon as you can get it down, it's going to be really uncomfortable. Like if you want to be good at PvP, you're going to have to make yourself really uncomfortable and be really bad for a while, especially when you swap up things like your Shiv macros, have different weapon poisons and things like that. It's going to be really uncomfortable. Like you were talking about, your keybinds aren't exactly how you want them. That's going to be like an ongoing process for like a few months, but don't get in the place where you're like doing a suboptimal keybind or clicking something just because it's more comfortable now. Because if you actually want to be good, you have to lean into that discomfort and really be like shit at the game to eventually get better. And you'll like misclick shit. Like you'll hit one. I've blessed of might somebody when I meant to repentance, and I'm just like, yep, it's because you're changing your hotkeys around. But eventually, you'll learn the new one. Even if you suck now, you'll get better. And if you're like making yourself worse by changing your hotkeys, that's okay, because eventually, like it's like that whole one step backwards, take 2 steps forward. So I think that's really big in TBC, like being able to fluidly control the battle, especially in threes. Because right now we're only dealing with twos. In threes, when your focus target isn't the only thing you maybe have to kick, you got to be able to really play the game at a level where you've got everything down and it's completely fluid. I think it's a lot of prep compared to retail.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts, by the way, on all the beta keys being given away right now? Because I've had some people come to like my stream and such. They're like, man, I wish I'm not in beta, and then I'm seeing all these beta keys being given out, and it feels bad for them. From my aspect as a content creator, I just look at it as Blizzard's just doing marketing. They're just doing marketing, and it looks like as we get down the line to a closer release date, it's getting more and more people are going to get into beta. It's becoming a more common thing to just be in the beta. It's not going to be a beta in a lot of aspects soon, as more and more people just are in the beta.
Yeah, you know what I hate about it?
What's that?
Where the fuck are my keys? Blizzard, what the fuck, bro? Like, what the shit? Like, we do a podcast for your ass? I've like only streamed like WoW exclusively for like the past few months, bro. Like, hello? my friend who has less viewers than me on average, and I don't even look at my viewer count. Like, I look at it like after. I just saw like this guy had like 50 viewers. He's giving away beta keys. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, God, what desk do I have to get under at Blizzard to get some beta keys, dude? Oh, man. I just thought it was really funny because it came out of nowhere where people were originally like, oh, Blizzard will just get like turned on, right? Where it's just like, turned on. Blizzard will just like turn on your account, right? And be like, oh yeah, this guy gets beta, that guy gets beta, that guy gets beta. And there were never going to be keys. And then they're all of a sudden like, actually, here are some keys to you guys and you guys. And obviously, I get it's to help the creators. And I think that's a good thing. Like, obviously, invest in your creators. But it was just really interesting, like, who gets beta keys, right? It seems like a very select group, and I'm interested to see how much they expand that and how much they do how much they really focus on their creators in TBC, right? If they actually make like a creator Discord, if they make like an arena junkie Discord or something like that Blizzard actually has some community management in, those types of things would be cool, right? Where you could set up scrims and all that stuff. I'm sure somebody will do it eventually, but yeah.
Yeah. For the keys, I've actually been wondering about that as well, because I don't have any keys to give away. And I was I was with Guzu the other day, and then the day before he was also saying that he was like, man, I don't have any keys either. And Guzu's a bigger streamer than I am. And then like the next, I think literally the next stream or the stream after that, he had keys, and he said he just talked to them. So I feel like it's because I feel like it's Blizzard's giving keys to people who like might have been in like the old Discord or in the old communications with them in the past, and just kind of just giving it to those guys. So people who coming in from the new guard or the new wave of content creators and such, I think might just not be on their radar, and we need to get on their radar apparently to get the keys. I gotta go talk to someone apparently.
Well, they know how to contact me. That's my answer. Is like, I'm not gonna go find them. They can come to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I
got WoW to play. I'm not gonna be looking to contact these guys. You know, I'm not gonna give out their beta keys for them unless they want. Like, that's how you'll see it. It's like, I'm doing them a favor, okay? They need to give me the keys. I'll hand them out for them, okay? All right, that'll be
that is the service we provide here on the Prepared podcast. Apparently.
We will hand out your beta keys for you. So,
but yeah, as beta kind of scales up, I don't think it's something to be worried too much about if you're not in a beta. I feel like they're gonna start expanding. I feel if they're giving this many keys away to people, it's means they're kind of ramping up to let big waves of people just into the beta at some point in the near future. But
I'm interested to see what that looks like when everybody gets it and then the arena stuff starts happening. Because I'm excited, you know, as somebody who's like a speedrunner, I'm excited for like the instances and stuff like that. But phase 1 is really going to be the phase of PvP and alts, reputation grinds, getting your alts up, PvPing. And then from there, then the big boy game starts, you know, come phase 2 plus. So phase 1 is going to be a lot of PvP hype. And that's the thing is, I feel like the way that it went in Classic was there was a lot of time before like Battlegrounds ever came about. So there wasn't really anything that people could do during the hype part of Classic to really get any PvP community going. Because right out of the gate, you're just like, okay, there's no honor system. And then phase 2 comes out and you're like, oh, there's an honor system, but it's 100 v 100 Tauren mill. Like that's your battleground. And there's no real way to like have any type of organized thing around that. Then eventually Warsong comes out in like, I think that was like end of phase 2, phase 3. Yeah, it's something like that. I think around the AV times. So it was just like AV was all PvE. Warsong, is a good one, but at the same time, they had some things around Arathi Basin, which came out much later, and that's the one that a lot of people like to play. Is Arathi Basin? I think is probably the most popular, or at least the one that people seem to like the most. Skilled people like Warsong Gold for sure, but Arathi Basin is more like the team play one that people seem to like spectating a little bit more because Warsong can go on quite a long time, and Arathi Basin has to end at some point, unlike the other two. So it really was hard to have any organized PvP or showcase around it. Whereas I think if people play their cards right here around TBC launch a few weeks in, you can already start having arena tournaments, right? You can already start having people going to events and starting to make teams and things like that, which I think is going to have a much stronger sense of attachment, community, and brand building for people. So I think TBC is going to be a much bigger thing for PvPers.
It's
just right now it's all people. What do people watch in classic WoW? You watch the speed runs every DMF, and even if you aren't somebody who watches that, then you probably don't watch classic WoW that much. You probably watch some GDKPs right about now, or your friends, and that's about it. But I know I'm going to be watching a lot of PvP streamers. I know that, like, I personally want to get involved in the PvP stuff, especially for commentating, because I really enjoy TBC PvP in Arena. So
it's going to be.
I'm excited for that.
Fun. Yeah, and
really
I did see your tweet. I retweeted it, by the way. So Zirene, by the way, everyone, if you are hosting a tournament, Zirene wants to do commentating work and is really excited to do that sort of thing. And honestly, that was the entire reason I got Zirene on as a podcast partner in the first place. Is I think there's very few people in the scene who are like analytical, who have a good setup to host things and talk about things, and who are able to break it down and just like it's what we talked about previously, where you're conscious about how you're breaking down things and being able to do that on the fly is actually a rare skill, because not many people can do that on the fly. So that's one of the big reasons why I reached out to Zirene originally. And I
appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope that someone picks you up, because I can't think of a better person to do the commentary, honestly. So yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. I'll be the best person to do the commentary who's not playing in it, because they're not good enough. So it's like Venruki and Zico. Those guys, they commentate the Arena World Championship. They're gonna be playing in these games, hopefully. So they aren't competing for the same job as me. But no. We'll see what happens, because I think there's also an opportunity for Azael, who works for Riot, to also do this as well. And I know that he was doing a podcast the last week or something like that that involved TBC, and he's a big name who does commentary and also does WoW at a high level. So for me, I probably won't play, because I'm a paladin player in PvP at heart. Like I actually have ancient screenshots of me being number 1 and 2200 plus in 2s and 3s in season 3 and 4 as a paladin. Very rare seeing a paladin do that at all, but we were just fucking garbage as a class. Like I stand by it. Paladin is the worst healer in Arena in TBC, and I can say that with full confidence. We are by far the worst. You are if you are a paladin player, you are way better off playing Ret in 3s. Way better off. It's gonna be way more fun for you too. But God, it is just not a good class. And here's actually the story: is I got approached when I was I think I was 17 at the time. I was either 16 or 17 at the time. And I got approached by a team to play for them, and they were scouting like high level healers, and they were like, "Oh, we noticed that you were like 10th, and then you were rank 1 coming into season 4, we're interested in signing you." And then I was like, "Oh, awesome." And they were like, "So what healers do you play?" And I was like, "Oh, I play paladin." They were like, "Do you play druid and priest?" I was like, "No." And they were like, "Do you play druid or priest? You don't have to play both." And I was like, I'll get back to you. And then I played druid on the PvE or the PTR, because you could like roll up on the Arena PTR where people practice against each other across BG. I rolled a druid and I just got fucking smashed. I was legit just like, I was like, how do you live? How do you survive in cloth as a oh my god, it felt so bad not having plate armor, which I realized was a giant crutch as a paladin. Is I was like, a rogue gets on you, and you're like, I could take this damage. You know, maybe I had to juke them a little bit, but I could take this damage. And then you're a priest, and you're just like, oh god, pain suppression. It's like, oh god, shield. You're just freaking out the whole time because you don't have any armor. Oh man. And then druid, you're just like, when do I go bear form? Oh god, I can't heal now. Like, it was, for some reason, it was like really hard for my teenage brain to figure out how to play druid and priest. So I actually never got signed because I was too bad of a healer on things that weren't paladin. Oh man. And that's why I went into commentary.
So you're saying we should be happy then that you have that because we got all the Zirene content from that.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. Like, oh yes, yeah. That's exactly what I was saying the whole time. Yeah. Not that I'm a failure in life or anything. No.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where the scene goes because I actually have screenshots here that I didn't use earlier. Because people ask me all the time like what it takes to be a content creator, what to go full time in the WoW scene to kind of do that. Because I kind of did that really quickly, but I kind of got lucky in that there was a niche that was unfulfilled at the time, and then I jumped into that in the rogue space. But I talk to people about this all the time because I'm very like I'm always thinking about how to improve my stream or what should the next step I should do and such be. And so when I look at the numbers and then I look at like the WoW space, I look at things like this page I have open here where you look at how many people are actually over 1K viewers. And for me, like, it's always in my mind, it's like, this is how many viewers you need to make it on Twitch on average. This is how many like subs you'd need. And then you have to roll in your YouTube content as well. And when I look at the WoW space, I'm like, man, you guys, I hope you guys have other sources because like, if we're going into Classic, if we use the Classic numbers, you guys, you could be the biggest WoW Classic streamer that isn't Payo, and you could just be like barely making your rent and such.
Yes, I can tell you guys straight up, from a like having lived in a streamer house, having been a streamer and a decently successful one when I was doing it, and playing the game, not just streaming, because I will tell you, being a streamer and streaming are very different. Streaming, anybody can do it. Being a streamer and actually playing the game of being a streamer, very fucking different. Very fucking different. Because I remember, like, even though I was like a good League of Legends player, I was a League of Legends commentator, I could stream League of Legends, you get 1,000 viewers, you do a VOD review, nobody's gonna fucking sub or donate during that time because they're watching the content and you're not really interacting with them. Sure, you can answer questions, things like that, but people don't want to disrupt the show. People, and also in League of Legends and WoW, have kind of learned, in a sense, like nobody's kind of taught them, but they haven't really like learned that they should sub or that they should donate at all, right? But for some reason, when you do just chatting, and I'm not talking like being a fucking hot tub streamer, I'm not talking about being any of that like shit, any of that meta shit. If you do just chatting, you will get way more subs and donos than if you do anything else that even is your like main niche game. Because people want to talk to you, they build a connection with you, and they feel way more inclined to support you. And it's really fucking interesting because I could do League of Legends and get like, 500 subs and just stay there, even though I have like twice as many viewers as that. But then when I would do just chatting, you have like 300 viewers, but I'd get 1,000 subs. And I'd be like, okay, like something's off here because there's way more gifters. There's way more people, because all you have to do is really make connections with the people who are really generous. And I'm not saying this as like a business scheme thing. It's like, you are more likely to make connections with people who are generous if you are doing just chatting, as opposed to just showing off your skill, right? I think there are very, very few people who get away with that. We're talking about like Shroud. We're talking like Ninja, the people who are so skilled that people will just throw subs at them and don't even expect to be like thanked or even like have any recognition. And people just kind of like, it's the meta thing to like just sub or give to this person. Whereas just chatting, people feel way more recognized, way more connection, it's just way more of what Twitch is about. Twitch, people are either here to watch and chill or they're here to interact. And that's the special thing about it. Because if you were here to just watch and chill, you go watch Netflix, you go turn on any other media source. Twitch is unique where the people who come here to be on Twitch specifically and not just watch a YouTube VOD of somebody playing, are here for the live experience, are here for the actual the person in the moment. And those are the people you want to interact with. And that's how you interact with them, is by doing just chatting or actually making your stream about the chat, which is so fucking hard to do when you're playing a goddamn game, right? It's so hard to do. Like, I'll tell you guys, when I streamed League of Legends, I hated playing ranked on stream. Not because it was like, oh, I'd be nervous or mess up. It's because I would never look at my chat. And then after the game, 20, 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, I look and there's like 5 questions of people who probably have left the chat by now. And I'm just like, I can't look over at them, because if I look over, I miss something on the minimap of like a jungler walking over a ward. Or even if I'm recalling, I look at the chat and I'm just like, okay. And I'll look back and I've missed something. Something has been missed of some kind, whether it's a ward being placed, disappearing, somebody walking over it. You can't look away from the game for even a fraction of a second, especially in those games where it's long stretches like League. Now, arenas, potentially more chance to interact with people between games. But yeah, I very much so feel like being a WoW streamer is very difficult to make a living purely off of being a WoW streamer. Like, I don't want to go into like your stats or anything like that, but for like people out there, like Snow puts so much work into his stream, into the podcast, into the layout, to the point that like he was talking to me about like pay cut, like the division of what the podcast divide is. And Snow was very generous. He offered me like 50-50. I was like, literally just take 100% of it, because one, I mean, I have another job and I work, and two, like, he does everything. Like, Snow literally does fucking everything on this. He does the editing. I don't even think you have a different editor. You edit it yourself, right?
Yeah, I edit everything myself.
Yeah. Snow edits it himself, which I think is a stupid move, by the way. Like, literally, there's people out there who will edit this for experience, and you can save a bunch of time. But like, Snow does it himself. He does the streaming. He does the overlays. He prepares the topics. Snow literally sends me a list of topics and says, "This look good to you?" And I go, "Yep." And I just show up and talk, and that's all I have to fucking do. Like, Snow does so much of this. Like, he deserves pretty much all the credit for it. It's his idea. It's his brainchild. It's everything. So like, he definitely deserves all the revenue from it. But that revenue is probably pretty low.
Pretty small.
Yeah. So like, in terms of being a WoW streamer, it is very hard to sustain yourself purely off of WoW right now. And I do hope that TBC, and I do hope that the introduction of potentially more people playing the game is going to help that for streamers, right?
Yeah.
And that's eventually what I'm getting at here, is like, I just want more people to play the game. That's why, like, the level boost thing, I'm not against it, because I just want more people to play the game, because I think it's going to just help everybody, especially the content creators.
Yeah. As far as like WoW as a section, it's something I've always talked about on my stream a lot, because WoW is really, a lot of times it just becomes just chatting, but with WoW in the background, because WoW is a very hard game to make it as a streamer, because essentially all you're doing is farming gold and things like that half the time. The times when there's like interesting things going on the stream are very low, versus the times when you're literally just like walking around Silithus farming nodes or something like that. And when I'm looking at the numbers, like the actual numbers of people who are streaming and such, I get a lot of questions from up and coming streamers, because for people that don't know, I went from like $0 to like $2,000-$3,000 a month in literally like a month of streaming WoW as a content creator. And that's very, very rare, and that's only because of the way I set up my business and everything with the YouTube and then my website and all this other stuff. And when people ask me, well, like, how many viewers do I need to make it as a WoW streamer in Twitch, I'm telling them, like, I don't know, man. I hope that you're a 1K plus guy, because you need, if you do the math, you need like 1,000 subs just to be making like minimum wage income level almost. And that's then you're gonna need to, I hope you have a YouTube on top of that and all this other stuff, because really, like, when we think of the big WoW streamers, you look at these guys who are like at 1,000 viewers, like the Swifties of the world, who are like at these 1K levels, and like these guys, if they only relied on like just the Twitch subs alone, like that's not like a crazy income. And for the amount of work that you'd have to put in to be a 1K streamer in WoW, at that point, I always ask people, I was like, look, I don't want to disencourage you or anything like that, but you're going to have to put in crazy amounts of work. You're probably going to be doing like 70, 90 hours a week if you want to be like a WoW content creator, and you're going to be streaming on top of that. At that stage, you have to ask yourself, is this really what I want? Or do you just want to go work another job and still get to play more WoW than a content creator actually gets to do?
Yeah. So we're about to get into like a Twitch meta here. I don't want this to be like a gigantic tangent because we have other things to talk about, but like because I've studied this extensively. I've helped a lot of people, and like I said, I've been in a streamer house. Streaming the game and being good at it, unless you are like the best, is no longer enough. You have to be an entertainer. I would say if you are a mediocre player but a good entertainer, you will do better than an incredibly good player who is not entertaining at all. Right? You will do better. You will be able to engage with your audience. They'll be able to give you more. I know a guy in League of Legends. I think his name was like Frost Prime. He literally has, God bless him. I'll watch his like stream for like 2 seconds, and I am greatly entertained because he has like 5 webcams, and he can do cuts in the moment where he'll just like he'll be playing the game. Somebody will say something to him, and he'll be like, is that really what you think? And he'll look away from the game. He'll look at the other camera. He'll be like, is that what you think? And he'll like zoom in. He'll be like, motherfucker. And then he'll go back to his normal camera and shit like that. It'd be like, get out of my chat, get out. And he'll like change like angles. He'll be like, out. Don't want to see it, out of my chat. Like, and it just changes and shit like that. And he's not even playing the game anymore. And that's what it's like. Being an entertainer is way better. There's actually, it's really funny. Okay. So, I'm gonna send this to you really quickly. This was something that, I don't know how I came about this. I think I was like, it's this.
Oh,
it's
God,
some
wait,
Korean girl.
is this safe to open? Yeah. I'm literally looking at the screenshot.
See, he's like, oh, is this safe to open? No, it's some Korean girl who plays WoW. But when I went to like check the stream, because I was like, oh wow, this is like a really popular stream, and I'd never heard of it before. It's like 300 viewers or something, and it's literally her and Naxx, and then on the side, it's like people give like 1,000 bits, and then it just plays YouTube videos over like half of her screen, and she like is killing Naxx bosses while actually watching this and reacting to it. So it's actually just chatting with WoW in the background as the like side thing, and it was really interesting because I was like, this is way more like she gets like way more like people trying to interact with her or donate things than I see almost any other classic streamer, like period. And yeah, I know you're smiling at this, but it's like I for one don't think it's just because like she's a girl. I think it's because she's set this up, and like that's huge props to her because she actually understands how to be a streamer and not just a WoW player, right? And that was the thing to me that I was just like, damn, that's like good business right there. So Snow, you got to bring the hot tub back.
Hey, the hot tub. I made some of the most money we made in one stream during the hot tub stream. Apparently, that's the way to go.
Yeah, people like events as well. I could talk to you for hours about Twitch meta. I am not a very good Twitch streamer right now because I don't want to be. Yeah. But like, if I really thought about it, you want to do events, you want to set up emotes for the event as well. You want to change your alerts, right? And like this example right here, right? It's like literally people are like giving money to just have this take up most of the screen. Like I can't even see like raid frames or anything like that. And so you're not watching this person for the gameplay in particular. You're watching it for their reaction because you care about them. And that's how you be a goddamn good streamer, is because I could go stream any game and X amount of people will watch me. That's how I judge somebody by being a good streamer, because they care about them and they don't care just about the game they play, right? You have to transcend the game. But we're getting, like I said, off into like a
tangent,
a big tangent. And I could talk about this for so long because it's something I'm very passionate about, and especially with helping other people. But So before we get into this too much, we do have other topics to talk about. But so for people that do message me and ask how to make it as a WoW content creator, just to wrap up, I'd say like make sure it's what you actually really want first, because the amount of hours you're gonna have to put in to make it as a WoW content creator is very high, and it's not skill based. It's a lot of like content you're gonna have to make on the side to actually make things work. So yeah, just make sure that you're in for that time commitment, because if you're just trying to get it from streaming, 1K viewers will not give you a very luxurious lifestyle. You could probably make as much working at McDonald's if you're relying on 1K viewers to sustain you. Yeah, I would say whatever the viewer count is in WoW, you typically divide it in half, and that's all usually how many subs they have, unless they're an entertainer. And then in just chatting, you take how many viewers the person has, and you multiply it by two instead of cut it in half, and that's usually how many, maybe two and a half, and that's usually how many subs they have if they've been doing it for a while and purely just chatting. So it's just a different magnitude depending on what you stream and what kind of streamer you are.
Yeah.
That's something I've always struggled with because I'm a very educational streamer, and I know you're the same way.
It's
But
very hard,
people,
yeah. It's very hard.
people don't always show up for education. People don't really care too much about it. They care more about the wrapper that it's in. And people want to be entertained. People want to be entertained, right? They don't always want to learn. They want to be entertained, and if they want to learn, then they'll come over. But they aren't usually the type of people who are there to like give money or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Or support.
And the format isn't
typically,
great
but
as
yeah.
well. Twitch isn't the greatest format for teaching a lot of the times.
Yeah.
For some things.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that I don't really miss being like a League of Legends caster is I joined because I had a YouTube channel. Actually, I don't know how many people know this. My YouTube channel is like LOL Zirene, and I have like videos from 2014 when I was in college. And back then the game was different. Or YouTube game was different. You record, you slap it up there. Full gameplay videos getting 200,000 views because I'm talking the entire time and explaining it to people. And I had try hard guides, which was me explaining exactly what I'm doing, and then try soft guides, which was me explaining a little bit but having fun with my friends and making weird noises and shit. So it's there's a Rammus video I am not very proud of. But it was like I wanted to be more of a teacher, and then when I got into commentary, that was kind of the way to do it, was teach people through commentary. But it ended up being more of a narrative thing at the end of the day, and I'm not really much of like a narrative weaving kind of guy.
Yeah, storytelling and things.
Yeah, I'm not as much of a storyteller, and that kind of ruined it for me over time. Is I was like, they were like, we don't care as much about like the interaction, we care more about the hype because that's what people come back for. And I'm like, shit, okay. So you had to be able to do both, and I wasn't like really good at doing both. So it's something that I don't really miss too much. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Before we go on in a tangent, maybe we'll do another podcast another day with like all this stuff. But
there's a lot.
There's a lot in that. But yeah, so let's go back to WoW topics. This happened. Zirene was the one that sent me this original video. It's funny that literally when we were done praising the Chrono Boon, like I think it was like the next day or something, all this stuff happened where everyone started getting ZG buff in their book, and like everywhere we went, wait, let me play the sound. People were spamming ZG buff, servers were crashing.
Oh man.
I laughed so hard when Zirene sent me this.
Is it the Jalen one?
Yeah, the Jalen. He's just running through EPL, just spam with the Zelda thing going off over and over again.
That is by far my favorite from it. He's like, I keep hearing the noise. It's like people send me clips from all over of like different times or things, random shit was happening. Like they buffed KT. Somebody sent me one where like a guy, they were like rebuffing for Saffron, and you know how people will say like a raid leader will be like, can we buff Arcane Intellect on this guy? It's like Snow needs Fortitude, right? It's like this guy was just like looking through his raid, sees one of the guys doesn't have ZG, and he goes, can we get a ZG on Snow? And then somebody pops the ZG and he goes, all right, thanks. And it's just like completely monotone. Like I was like, that is exactly what would happen. It would lose its novelty after like an hour of raiding, and you'd just be like checking everyone and be like, who missed it? Okay, group 3 needs ZG. All right, thanks.
It was so for people that missed this, basically what happened was the Chrono Boon had a bug that was giving people ZG on their spellbook, and it was like instant cast. You could just spam click it, so everyone could give everyone else ZG buff. And if you went into Orgrimmar or any busy city, it was just chaos, complete chaos with ZG buffs going off non-stop. And eventually they fixed it by just removing the ZG from the spellbook and changing. I heard they even changed the spell IDs temporarily because that was the only way they could like hotfix it really quickly. And
yeah, there was something where like there was like two different ZGs, or there was like a ZG that goes out in Booty Bays, a different ZG than the one that goes out on the island ID wise. So it was like really interesting.
yeah, and like even after they fixed it, it was still broken because I was in Naxx at the time, and people were really scared I was gonna crash out Naxx, and apparently even after they removed it, we looked back at the logs because KT somehow got ZG buff in our run, and then we looked back at the logs and it said snowcasted ZG buff, but this was after they removed it from my spellbook. So we were like, how did snowcast ZG buff? And apparently, if you get mind controlled, you cast ZG buff on everyone again.
So they hid it from you and made it so you couldn't use it, but the NPC still had access to it, so you could buff KT with it. Actually, there's some weird shit going on recently. So if you have, which you probably don't have any trouble anymore getting Warchief's Blessing, Warchief's Blessing does not just go out in Crossroads and Orgrimmar. Warchief's Blessing goes out every single place there's a guard in the Barrens.
Interesting, because I was running to get WCB the other day, actually, and I was running past the guards on the way into Orgrimmar. I was heading into Orgrimmar, and then I saw the guards where the new players cross that bridge, and there's some guards there. And I clicked on them, and I did see they had WCB, and I wasn't sure if did they always get WCB when it went out, because I had no idea. I was very confused, and then I just kept running.
Yeah. Now here's the weird thing. People don't know if it's tied to the tower's structures or if it's the NPCs that are casting it. But what I do now is, like, there's so many different places. Like, you can get it at Razor Hill, you can get it at all these different ones. Like, but one place that I was at was the where Ashenvale and the Barrens meet, with those level 40 guards. I MC capped there. And then I walked my guy while they're SC capped on top of the guard. They get the Crossroads one. So, Orgrimmar goes out, then Crossroads later. They get the Crossroads one. Boom, it goes down. You walk away. Your MC pet has War Chiefs, and you don't as the MC capper.
Huh.
So NPCs are getting it, but not players. So when you MC cap somebody and they're like a pet, they get it. So it's really strange. And I'm not sure if that's always been there, but good Lord, does it make it really fucking easy to get Warchief's Blessing in any spot in the Barrens.
Yeah.
It's like,
thank God.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, well, back to the interesting word.
Yeah.
But yeah, to cover the rest of the news that went out, we have the deluxe rewards as well. So that this broke. It was on stream actually when this broke the other day, and Zirene was actually just happened to be in the stream at the time. So these are leaked images of what's supposedly coming out with the supposed Deluxe Classic edition or whatever. So from what you can see is like this is obviously the boost here, and then they've got some sort of like toy graphic that follows you when you run, and then
of course, Path of the Illidari.
Yeah, Path of the Illidari, and then the mount as expected. And there was some debate people were talking about because the mount animation has a swim animation. But there's actually, it seems what's more likely, because people were worried that, oh no, they're going to put in a mount that can swim into TBC and it's going to be a store mount. But I think the more realistic option is that it's they've got one version for retail and one version for classic, and the classic version is not going to be able to swim, and then the retail version will. I think that's a more realistic idea. I don't expect them to put in a swimming mount into TBC.
Yeah, I very much like this is my prediction is half of these items are retail items because they've done this before with so many different things. They do it all the time with like pre-purchases. Like I can't tell you the last time it was like you buy Diablo and then you get a Diablo pet. Not in Diablo though, but in your World of Warcraft game. Yo, you playing Hearthstone? Here's a flying mount. Like not in Hearthstone, but you got to play WoW to get it. So they do a lot of things where they connect it across. And I'm pretty sure this is like once you buy the collector's edition, you get 30 days of playtime, you get a level boost, you get a mount that is like a ground mount, and then in retail you get the deluxe version of that mount. You get the toy that is the black or the dark portal. You get a toy that is summons the dark portal, and then you can use the Path of the Illidari, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a retail thing. I'm pretty sure there's nothing new coming to TBC aside from the 30 days of playtime, the level boost, and the mount. I don't think anything else is going to be in TBC. I don't think they would do that. I think there'd be a lot of pushback for that too.
Yeah. Although the interesting thing about that is that there were at times was it TBC where all the toys and things from the trading card games were in? I can't remember if that was TBC or RAF.
Dude, the Spectral Tiger.
Yeah, like the Spectral Tiger and all those toys as well from the trading card codes.
I'm almost positive that was classic WoW when they had Tabard of Frost and Tabard of Flame.
Okay, so the chat saying it was TBC. Yeah, so with the toys, like that might be an interesting thing. If these were toys from TBC era, and then they changed them into cash shop items, is that kind of the same thing? Because technically you could buy the toys during the TBC era back then through cards, and then now instead of cards, you're just buying them through cash shop. Is that like the thing you're doing?
I guess so, but I just looked it up and like, yeah, Tabard of Frost, Tabard of Flame were actually trading card game or like TCG things in vanilla, right? Yep. You could get it in vanilla. Those one weren't Burning Crusade. It's actually interesting too, because when I watched the Noobs VOD, I went, what the fuck is going on? What is that tank wearing? And they have Tabard of Frost in China, which makes me very mad. I was like, why the fuck did they get Tabard of Frost and we don't get that over here? But you know what? It even shows up in the log. You can check their log. Their tank has Tabard of Frost on. I'm just telling you, this stuff started in Classic with all these types of promotions and everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a thing against cosmetics at all. I don't really find the cosmetics to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, personally, we won't go into this because like we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
A lot, but yeah, personally, it doesn't bother me that much. I think like, yeah, sure, it might break the spirit. Some aspects of the game aren't perfectly ideal, but it doesn't bother me that much because I don't think it will have like a major impact on the game. Personally, it's I don't think it's going to be that detrimental, even if it is detrimental. So, like from my perspective, I don't really mind that much, but I can understand the guys who are kind of upset because it's not like this isn't a classic they remember. But for me, it's not something that really bothers me that much, as far as like what it does for me. Because again, it was in the trading cards. The trading cards were in TBC then, and that means there was a way to spend money and get cool things in the game back during TBC. It's just that now it might be a cash up thing instead, which is a whole nother debate as far as whether that's something that should be going in. But like from a personal standpoint, it doesn't break the game for me. Because at the end of the day, I see people coming in with the mounts and it'll be like, I think everyone's going to have the mount probably because it's probably be the best package deal for if you want a boost and game time at the same time. That's usually how they do these package deals, is they make it so that everything kind of is cheap. It's like, oh, well, you must as well get this package deal with the free mount because it's the cheapest way to get the boost and the game time at the same time.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say this really quickly, and like maybe I'm just going to preface this with maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm insensitive. It's very, very possible that I don't really understand the community at all. Maybe I'm the one who's out of touch. When I saw this and everybody was like, oh my God, how dare they? I was kind of like, wait, I don't understand what the big deal is. So it's already things that we knew were going to be in the game, the mount, the like, 30 days of game time and a boost. And then all these other things, I don't know if people are like thinking these are going to be in the game and aren't thinking they're going to be in retail. But even if they are in the game, like, for me, it's not a big deal. Like, and like I said, maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I don't understand the average player. But I really don't see any issues with the cash shop stuff because I'm just not a cash shop user, right? It's like, I'll use it for server transfers, faction changes, and a boost, I guess. But I feel like I feel like the community, not to like criticize you guys, but I feel like anything that has anything to do with a cash shop remotely feels like everybody just loses their mind right now. And I don't know if it's because people are like, this was the start of the end for what made them like the game, is they just saw so many like cash shop things get introduced over and over again. I don't know, but I feel like people are really jumpy right now, which to me probably signals like Blizzard, you should probably hold off a little bit. Seems like people aren't really like warming up to the idea of having anything in a cash shop. So
to summarize there a little bit, it's a lot of when people come up to me, they're like, "Oh, I don't really hate this stuff." A lot of times they tell me, "I don't really hate this stuff." They're just scared of what it could become down the line. So usually, what I ask them is like, "Okay, where's your actual line then?" Because for me, it's hard to talk with people if they're like, "Oh, well, there's this future possibility that could happen." And that's why I don't want this thing happening now. It goes into that whole slippery slope talk where it doesn't really get anywhere when you talk about that stuff, because you need like a set point. You need a line to be talking about. So when I talk to people about that, I ask them, okay, so what is your actual line then? Like at what feature would they add in where you'd be like, okay, this is too much? And then I ask them, like, how realistic is it that you actually get to that point then? Because if you're not bothered by these things and these are just like your precursor and that's why you're scared about these things being added in, what is your actual line? And then that's where you actually get a productive talk with people, I found. And
because the slippery slope is literally irrelevant unless you cross the threshold, right? That's the only thing that matters at that point, right? As long as you cross that threshold of where you're like, enough is enough, because everything up until that point is just suspense or fear until it becomes a reality or a realization. So they could skirt that line forever and you could be paranoid forever. But as soon as it crosses it, that's when it's like there's legitimacy to everything in the past that has happened, right? So it's interesting how that works, but you really do want to have a like you said, a hard line where you go, that's the point for me. And I know some people's is already crossed with level boosting, right?
Yeah, and then I mean, I won't go into this because I promised people we wouldn't we wouldn't go back into this whole thing too much. But at least that's for me. And if you want to come in my stream, guys, later at some point and talk about it, I'm always happy to talk about that stuff. But yeah, for me, like when I talk to people, I just ask them, "Where's your line?" And then you can have a proper conversation about it. But to quickly run through the stuff before we all run away and
lightning round.
Yeah, lightning round stuff. But the rest of the stuff is easy to talk about. We can go quickly because it's stuff we've already talked about. So they updated the drums. Thank God, by the way. Thank you, Blizzard. The drums are now giving you the tinnitus buff. So this is what people wanted in the first place, which just means that instead of needing everyone having leatherworking, you have a minimum of one per group, and then maybe if you're a hardcore guild, you want to have a few backups here and there, but you don't need everyone having leatherworking now. So this means if you cast your drums, there's a 2-minute debuff, and then you just cast it again in 2 minutes. So you just need one person per group, essentially.
Yeah, and it also means like if you don't get it because you're like a ranged person in the melee group, like you could use your own drum or something, right? It's interesting because it means you don't have to have a drum rotation. Is really funny because I think this is a good change. I really like it because I was feeling more and more constrained over time. Like, if you're going to be a PvP rogue, you're going to want jewel crafting for the jewel crafting trinket, and you're going to want engineering. By the way, engineering, really interesting. Maybe I was just really shit back in the day, but people are using rocket boots in arena right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, was that something you could do? Because I don't remember being able to use any engineering things back then. Granted, I was really bad at the game back then. Even though I got a rank 1, I was still really fucking bad. You probably could use NG stuff. I just didn't do. I just didn't. So it was really interesting because there's like a lot of like NG stuff that I'm like, oh, if you're gonna do like arena, you need the engineer. And so that's like another profession slot taken up. So it's gonna be really interesting. The tinnitus stuff. It's funny because like you know how the ZG thing, the ZG spell book. I was like, what was it? When everybody was getting the ZG buff, I was like, haha. And then I had like an emote that had a gun pointing at you, and I was like, haha, Blizzard, funny joke. Now do DMF. Like, haha, thanks for giving us ZG, Blizzard. Nice joke. Do DMF. And then this time I was like, haha, Blizzard, thanks for the change. Now do sated for Bloodlust. Like,
yeah.
Like, because that's what I want for parsing. I don't really want like chain bloodlusts and stuff like that. That's something that I'm not a fan of. Maybe other people won't like that change, but I really just don't like the
So
idea
what
of
Zirene
parsing is how many bloodlust you get.
Yeah, what Zirene's talking about is that you can basically rotate bloodlust by like putting one shaman in and then just like rotating them through the groups and such. And that's why he wants like a Satyr debuff to basically stop you from chaining bloodlust. It's kind of what they did right now with the leatherworking. A lot of players would like that done with bloodlust as well. Like they see as a next step to prevent just annoying min-maxing. Not so much to kill min-maxing, but like an annoying weird factor of min-maxing.
I think it's gonna make people like, because right now, if I'm Blizzard, I really want to cater to the people who play the game to one parse, speedrun, and PvP, right? And parsing wasn't a thing that I had to balance towards back in the day. And here it's just going to be extremes of, I don't care how much damage you can get on a boss. Like back in the day, you throw up your YouTube video in 2007 and go, look at how much DPS I do. And people were like, oh my God, look at the 1,400 DPS. That's insane. And nobody goes like, he got bloodlust the entire time. Actually, his DPS would be more around 700, but because of all this, you're playing to him. Like nobody would say that shit back then. And now it's just like, well, this guy is now making the curve that everybody else has to play off of. And that's the thing that I don't like, is everybody is now compared against everybody else in parsing. And I think you do have to balance for that in some way, shape, or form, because it's within class, right? And that's the thing, is parsing is supposed to be how good am I at my class, not how good am I at getting boosted by my entire raid. And people are saying Warcraft logs can regulate the bloodlust change by invalidating logs too. But the problem with that, I don't like with that, is what that's going to do is that's going to make it so that if it's on a fight, then people can just rotate it for overall DPS in the instance and be like, all right, in the first fight of Black Temple, you're going to get bloodlust. And then the next fight, we're going to rotate a different shaman in your group for bloodlust. And then the third fight, we're going to do it. And then we're just going to keep doing that. So you have bloodlust literally every single fight. And just rotate them through your group, which still affects overall DPS, which is what I care about, because I know there's different types of people. People care about like, their parses and stuff. I care about overall DPS, because to me, it showed how much attention you had in the raid, how much you min-maxed every little thing you could, survived, and etc. As a speedrunner, it's more that mentality of like, you care about your overall, not your individual boss parse. Because in my opinion, that means you handled all the situations as best you could in the raid. And the instance is 80% trash, so I don't really care about my 20% boss parses. But that's just a personal thing, right? I know it's not everybody's mentality, but yeah, I really like the tinnitus buff. I feel like they should go another step, and this is a great thing because Blizzard, once again, bought some of our trust. Yeah. I think this is like, I don't think anybody sees this change and goes like, this is the worst change they could ever do. Just like they did with the the old drum change. Old drums, yeah. They were like, this is the most confusing and possibly the worst thing they ever could have done to drums. They just made them harder to use and still required. But this at least like shows me in the last like week that people play the game, right? Like that Blizzard people are listening and they're playing the game a little bit more. One, the sets on, the PTR make more sense now. So it looks like they're playing the game now. And the tinnitus debuff is like, God, I'm sure like there were some Blizzard employees who were in raids who were just like, drums. Okay, you use drums. Drums, where are my drums? Drums. Fucking drums, dude. Where are my drums? and then he's like, I used them. He's like, you didn't get close enough to me to use the fucking drums? There was a guy in our tank group who would like use his drums as he's walking towards the tank from the melee group, and he would only hit himself. When I checked the logs, he's like, I'm going to give the tank the drums, and he'd press them because they have the cast time, and he'd only get himself. He wouldn't hit the melee or the tank. He would just get himself, and I was just like, oh shit! Like this is what you have to like rely on for your parses.
But yeah. I mean, good change, or at least I'm happy with the direction. Again, it goes back to this being a very good direction that Blizzard has been making with all these changes in the last week, or 2 weeks even, where all these changes are moving in the right direction, and they're getting stuff right. It's like now they're stacking up good changes on good changes, and it's not like good and then like a horrible change and then like good. It's like, it feels like they've kind of turned the corner a little bit as far as like making good changes.
and like I think a lot of this started with like the mag third and stuff, right? Where it was just like, oh hey, you have. Sorry, I just saw like a random thing. You have a like something that's a little harder, and people were like, oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm sitting here going, I don't know if they allocated more people to it or like they started having more people on this team because they realized just how much investment there is in it, right? Like you're watching like WoW streams and you're seeing people like Venruki, like Zico, you're seeing a lot of people really invest in TBC and they want the game to be good. So there's even more pressure now for the game to be good, right? And be like successful because there's potential for TBC to eclipse retail in a massive way, right? There's a lot of potential for it. And TBC was one of the biggest expansions they ever had in terms of growth, probably the biggest they ever had in terms of growth ever. And they have a chance to recapture that, and the company I think should be investing in this. And I think it's a big oversight if they aren't, especially investing personnel who are who care about this project and also want it to be successful, like really successful. So I think for Blizzard, this is potentially like a big part of the future of your company. Speaking of the future company, CEO.
Yeah. We'll kind of. I know Zirene has to start tanking, so if he's distracted, by the way, guys, forgive him. I know he's gonna.
I haven't opened it up yet. I haven't opened it up yet.
He's gonna have to start tanking for his Akara in a second. But speaking of which, the CEO of Blizzard took a pay cut. That was interesting. I don't know. Like someone was joking in one of my discords that the pay cut coincided with when all the good stuff started happening. So maybe they just need to keep cutting the CEO's pay, and then good stuff will keep happening to WoW Classic. Apparently,
I mean, the amount that they cut from him, I think it was $875,000 a year. That's enough to hire 20 people.
Yeah, like 20 people for the Classic team. Yes, please.
I mean, yeah, I would say like more like 15 people at a reasonable like Southern California rate wage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of like a whatever change, I know, to a lot of people, but it was just interesting that all this stuff coincided. It feels like Blizzard suddenly stacking up all these good moves or public-facing positives all of a sudden, and it feels like the community is suddenly realizing it. Like, oh wait, could we have the old Blizzard back where everyone was excited for Blizzard stuff? But yeah, so... to kind of wrap up the podcast, we will really quickly talk about Noobs. What happened over the weekend was that Noobs just came out of nowhere, guys. So this is Speedrun Talk. Again, timestamps in the description if you want to skip. Noobs came out of nowhere, just dropped a world record 43-minute time, just a little bit faster than the Noda run. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing is everyone thought Noobs was done. A lot of speedrun. That was the rumor. The rumor going around was that they blew up and the hunter quit, and that's what happened, and then they just weren't doing any speedruns anymore. But it seems they've been just like secretly running speedruns, and they're just coming back now with the number one out of nowhere.
Which I'm sitting there going like, hell yeah, dude! Like I'm happy for that. That was really kind of strange that they had like disappeared. So I was happy with it. They actually did a decent amount that was new. They didn't do the Fairlina Gigapull.
Really? I didn't see that part.
Nope. They go into Fairlina, the area before Fairlina. Their paladins, their rogue and paladin Gigapull the right side, bring all the right shit in, and I mean the Crypt Stalkers, stuff like that. They AoE that down using Challenging Shout, no invis pot. Then a paladin goes into Fairlina's room, pulls the entire room off to the side. They literally kill 0 of the Fairlina acolytes and disciples. They kill none of the shit in Fairlina's room. They pull it off to the side, and then they kill Fairlina during that time, and then the guy like Ghetto Hearths, and they're gone.
Oh, so I see.
There's a lot they do in there. There's a lot they do in there, by the way. That's like really small and subtle, but super good.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, so yeah, Noobs kind of out of nowhere. Oh, I see what they're doing now with the Fairlina stuff. Yeah, apologies, guys. I didn't get to totally see it because we were kind of it was kind of like last minute where all this stuff came up. But yeah, so I don't know if next podcast we want Zirene come and have a closer look at it. because I know he's tanking right now, or he's setting up to tank. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to Noobs on the run. A really, really crazy,
Yeah.
crazy good time. I'm excited for this next DMF because it's gonna be. I feel like every guild is coming into this last one with the intention, thinking like, okay, might actually be the last one. Everyone's expecting like, okay, maybe this is the last DMF. At least that's the feeling I'm getting from a lot of the speedrun guilds, is that this is going to be probably the last one, and this is where it actually comes down to the line. And we actually have a 3-person race, because for a while it's just Progress and Noda, and it seems like Salad Bakers kind of couldn't get a consistent run together. So all the focus was just on Noda and Progress, but now Noobs is back. Noobs is back for the final rushdown at the end of the phase. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Like I said, I'm really happy about that, man. I'm really happy about that because I think they're very creative. They come up with some really interesting things that save them time and then throw it all away, but it like works. So I'm excited to see what they do, especially this next circus.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. But yeah, anyway, guys, we have to go do raid testing stuff and such. So this has been Prepared episode 9. Maybe we'll get Zirene to come in and do a proper rundown of the Noobs run next time. Or at least just like the highlights reel that we've done in the past with the speedrun such. But yeah, we will see you guys next time. Take care.
All right, have a good one, guys.